We are live with the man himself. Noel O'Keefe is returning for this special edition of the MMA Movement live chat. And of course, Sean joins us as well. But if you're a long time listener or viewer of the podcast or watcher of the channel, you'll know this man on your far left. It's Noel O'Keefe. He called himself the voice of Irish MMA, but I will say he's the voice of Irish MMA. How's it going, Noel? Welcome back.
Yeah, not bad. I just thought I'd give you a hand boost the numbers. It's been trawling. He's like a trawler, just dragging the dregs up. So I thought, come on. I know he's doing great things. The podcast. Delighted to be back on for the chat here on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon in Ireland.
I know, we should be outside. Did you just watch the football yesterday?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. It's good.
Glorious.
It's good to see sports.
Do you
back.
watch it, Rob?
The odd time. Yeah, I don't tune in as much as I used to, but the odd time.
What I liked about it was the commentator. I can't place his name. He kept referring to such and such as saying whatever on the sideline, and he's like, "Spiel means play," and you're there going, maybe leave it to Owen Hargreaves, who played in Germany for X number of years. You know what I mean, to do the translation, But it's great to see sport back. It's eerie, but I think the Premiership's going to be funny when you hear managers lose their shit at their players.
Yeah.
I think my favourite bit of the first weekend of German football being back was Steve McManaman saying that Dortmund are great.
But I also want to talk about the whole deal that's going on with Kamaru Usman, Conor McGregor, I guess Jorge Masvidal and a few other fighters. So I want to start there. We also have questions, and if you can post your questions in the live chat, that's the way this thing works, and it makes the whole thing better. So
it's a weird one because I think there's different facets to this story. Like when you look at Jorge Masvidal's Instagram, recently, it looks like he's looking to run it back with Nate Diaz. A lot of people weren't satisfied with how that ended. I think it was only ending one way, and that was Nate Diaz being a bloody mess. But it seems like Jorge is angling for that fight. So perhaps this is Usman using that leverage of that missing out possibly on that fight in calling out McGregor to almost say, well, we're not hanging around waiting for you. I'll go and I'll call out one of the biggest stars in the sport and biggest attractions. I don't think it's coincidental that McGregor gave his GOAT list this week, and then Usman is going on about calling Conor McGregor out. So, like, if you look at the fire of the comments that McGregor made about that GOAT, he got absolutely everybody talking. So you might question, is he worthy of a match? Is he worthy of whatever? But whenever Conor McGregor puts his fingers on his phone and types a tweet, it tends to get a lot of reaction, and Usman is one of them. I think it's a smart call out in some sense with timing, etc. Do I think it's a good fight? It's a really good fight for Kamaru Usman, but noticeably Usman has said McGregor's gone very quiet since I gave him the talk of this title. But again, footage of McGregor out running the roads here in Dublin. Maybe, there's something lined up for Conor. He said he wants to fight in Fight Island. And McGregor's the type of guy for me, I don't think he'll see that as a challenge. I mean, I want to dive in on it. So, will it happen? Sure, fuck, didn't he fight Floyd Mayweather?
what do you think, Sean?
I'm not surprised. Ali was talking it up as well, actually. I'm not surprised either him or Kamaru are calling it out. And it's a great business move for both of them. I mean, it's a hell of a payday for Kamaru. And it's a pretty good matchup for him as well at the weight class. Does Conor deserve it? I mean, he fought, his last fight was a 170, but that was really just a lightweight fight that happened to be a 170, wasn't it?
Yeah. The weird thing to me is, like, isn't it like they just threw their names into a bag and that's kind of what they came out with? Like, the most, I guess, the matchups that make most sense is obviously Conor versus Nate, and then Jorge should get the title fight against Usman. That's the kind of ones that make sense in that scenario. And it's just like they threw the oak in a bag and took out whoever they got, So in that sense, it doesn't make sense. But if Jorge is really, not happy with the terms that he's getting for a title fight, and there's nobody else there, like, I don't have a huge problem with it. Does Conor deserve a title fight at 170? Absolutely not. But, like, I mean, what else? If they want to get him in there and that's a fight that interests him, come on, consider the times, I'd watch it. Not that he deserves it, but I'd watch it.
There is kind of the question mark of... Sorry, no, go on.
No, go ahead, go on.
there is kind of the question mark of what do you do with him. I mean, if Khabib's fighting Justin Gaethje next, that means neither or the winner of that isn't going to be ready to go to fight Conor until end of the year. So, like, are you going to go to the end of the year without having Conor fight? Do you want him to fight? Did the UFC even want him to fight behind closed doors and miss out on the sort of gate revenue that he brings? And what do you do?
Yeah, but like, how long does that go on for? We kind of discussed this before. Like, how long will they be behind closed doors, essentially? And probably for a long time, and they're not going to want to be without Conor for that. But what were you going to say there, Noel?
Like, obviously, you said the Nate Diaz fight is the obvious match, and like, yeah, it's the story of that. You know, there is a story, but you look at Nate Diaz is coming off a loss, Conor McGregor's coming off a win, so normally the UFC stay clear of that. But I think what happens with Conor McGregor, I think every rule book you think they have, Dana throws out when it comes to Conor McGregor, because let's be honest, he's money, you know, and we spoke about this before, Rob. It's like you know, certain fighters can do certain things and get pumped up, as in, should Conor McGregor got a lightweight title shot at the time? No, he hadn't fought a lightweight and he gets a lightweight title shot. You know, so that happened. So why wouldn't this happen? And that's not saying I'm in favour for it. Look, you're going to watch it, and anyone who disagrees and says they're not, it's a stupid matchup, well, I can still guarantee you're going to be sat down and watching the same broadcast that I'm going to be watching. And a lot of people jump in. So there's that avenue that, like, with what's right for next. Like, personally, I think if Masvidal isn't getting the money he thinks he should get for fighting Usman, Masvidal should be the one pushing. So, well, I'll show you. I'll knock out your guy that I'm too big for, and he should fight McGregor, and that could be a number one title shot. But by the sounds of it, Usman wants his to defend his belt. You know, you've Edwards in the mix there as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know there's issues there with visa or something, isn't there? But there's plenty of options there. If Conor McGregor gets it, it's almost like, you know, GSP came back and got a title shot, for fuck's sake, at 180. You know what I mean? So things happen when you're certain fighters. You make so much, and I'm not comparing, before anyone started to compare GSP to Conor McGregor. It's the attraction that they bring in, and no matter what your opinion is, if you think Conor McGregor is a good fighter, he's just playing, hate the guy, you think he gets treated different, whatever it may be, he makes money for the UFC, and that is the deciding factor in Dana White's picking and choosing of fights.
When you said don't compare Conor to GSP, the thing I immediately thought of was Conor's GOAT list, and the fact that he had himself above GSP. So we could talk a bit about that later, because there was questions about that. There's a good few people in the chat, not too many questions at the moment, but there was one. Phil Campbell's there. Look at them all together, all the lads. John C said, maybe I have a tinfoil hat on, but I think Usman could care less about Conor. I think Ali is seeing Conor as a big payday for himself. I think, to be honest, I think Usman likes that fight as well, because really, like, to him, I'm sure he looks at it as a manageable enough fight, like a striker who has a good ground game but not great wrestling. A guy who hasn't done the greatest at 170. He's done well, but not really against 170ers. So, like, when you look at him and you look at the fight that he came off against someone like Colby, who's like a pressure fighter and can put that kind of, like, Conor's a pressure fighter in a different way, like for a round or maybe 2 rounds, but not with wrestling and not that kind of thing. So, like, I think he likes that fight, and of course there's a lot of money involved, so I'm sure Ali's looking at it and saying, yeah, I like that fight for me. But I don't think it's just Ali. I think Usman saying, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. He's a bargaining chip, and, like, let's be honest, like, the thing that makes this as well so open for fighters calling McGregor out and wanting that the famous red night, panty night, is Conor said he wants to be active this year. He said he wants to fight in Fight Island. He's ready to go again. I'm an absolute stalker on Instagram of a lot of fighters just because I see it and bar shitless at home. So he's in camp, like, he's training as much as you can be. He looks in phenomenal shape. I don't know if you've seen a picture of him recently. He looks absolutely shredded. He looks huge as well. He doesn't look like he's a man who's going to be stepping in at 55 anytime soon. And, like, again, do you think Conor McGregor lives down the road from me? I'm not too far from his gaff, like, you know what I mean? I'm 10 minutes away from where he lives. Do you think Conor McGregor sitting at home panicking, going, I wouldn't fight Usman, he'd beat me up? He sees that as a challenge, you know what I mean? Like any fighter in the UFC. So don't fall for this, he's afraid of anyone. Like, if you're a UFC fighter, you're not afraid of anyone else in the roster. Unless, of course, you're Darren Till and Yoel Romero.
Yeah,
the thing is as well, we're not really in a position to be picky with what fights get made, given the pandemic and stuff at the minute. So if the UFC can make a fight, absolutely, because there isn't really, like we're not really in a position to go and much should be happening. So if a fight can be made, then it's supposed to just make it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think the UFC will be picky either. Especially with the whole ESPN thing where they have to put on a certain amount of shows and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, they have to put these shows on, and if they can put on
Like,
big fights,
in
excellent.
some ways, right, it's a win-win for the UFC in some ways, right? If Usman goes in and beats Conor McGregor up, which a lot of people will be of the opinion that he will, um, that's fine. Dana White and all can turn around and go, look, Conor, 170s are too big for you. You know, he's
Mm-hmm.
already said about Jorge, who's a former 155er. So it's like 170 is too big for you. Go back down to 155. So they win. If Conor McGregor was to land a shot and put Usman away, let's live in that world for a minute. What the actual fuck, like, Stardom is already through the stratosphere.
Yeah.
So that just sets him, it potentially puts him on the list of that GOAT list he sent around. But like, so in that sense, I mean, it's win-win. Obviously, I don't want to see McGregor get beaten if he was to be badly humiliated. If that sense, again, I'm not saying that would happen, but if he was to be badly humiliated, would that affect his stock? I don't think so. Like, when you look at the Diaz one fight, that his stock wasn't affected by that. The whole cardio thing came out of that with Conor McGregor. But like, for me, like, this could be a win-win for the UFC. They could play it a certain way that he's dropping back down to 55 because he just doesn't have to frame for 170.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. But like, one thing actually that it's kind of, I don't know, I find like when you bring up the discussion of Conor, especially like his chances at 170, you get a lot of people jumping on you and saying, he's not a 170er. But like, realistically, how well do you think he could do at 170? Like, maybe he can't beat Usman, if that's most people's opinion. I think Usman's a bad matchup for him anyway. But like, how well does Conor do at 170 if he actually went there and fought 170 pounders, not blown up 155ers?
I just think 170 is full of a lot of really good grapplers, heavy wrestlers. So there's that, isn't there? There's that angle. I don't know about. I'd like to see Conor, like, let's be honest, his last 170 fight we didn't see. Like, it was a big win against Cowboy, but we didn't see how is his cardio going to be over 3-5 rounds if it's a main event, carrying that extra mass. You know what I mean? There's a lot of questions there. Like, the only thing I'd say about this is at the minute, you know, he's fought Nate at 170, he's fought Cowboy at 170. So in some way they're building him at 170. If you were to throw him in there with the Lions at 170, the top 5 guys, the legitimate top 5 guys, I don't think it's going to be a good look in that sense. I think it could be too much too soon.
Yeah.
But because it's Conor McGregor, I don't think you can slow push him, if you know what I mean.
You can't. What do you think, Sean?
There's definitely some favourable matchups at 170, like guys who have been at 155 before, but I'm not sure. I think Noel's right. It is a very wrestling heavy division at the top. Like, there's a lot of guys whose background is in that style, and I just think it's all wrong for McGregor, that style.
Yeah. I have a question here before I do that one. Do like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, because that would be great. But here's a question. I actually didn't see this, but Andrew Hibbs said, think Ariel got it right. We're going to end up with Conor and Justin. Do you see a path, or I'll go with Sean first, do you see a path for Conor versus Justin, and did you see Ariel say that and what his reasoning was for it?
I didn't see that, no.
Yeah. Do you think that's the next fight for Conor?
I'm not so sure. I think it kind of does, like, as grim. I don't mean it to sound so grim, but it kind of probably does depend on what happens with Khabib's dad, and if he's sick for quite a while, then Khabib's probably going to be out for quite a while. We know how close him and his dad are. I mean, Khabib has said he's ready to go in September, but I think that's pretty dependent again on his dad. So if that fight can't happen, then I suppose Conor and Justin is the fight to make.
Do you see it? No.
Right now, I think Conor McGregor needs Justin Gaethje more than Justin Gaethje needs Conor McGregor. Gaethje's stock went absolutely through the roof. He looked fantastic last time out against Tony Ferguson. So while before that fight you would have said it was the other way around, I agree with Sean. It solely depends on Khabib's father, and how that plays out. Obviously, Ramadan was ongoing as well. Like, so, coming out of that, now his father's ill. He's going to be, Khabib is a very loyal. Like, loyalty makes no sense when you say it that way. And more family orientated. His father means a lot. Like, there's a lot of fighters that are on the Brave roster that are fly under that flag as well. And like, again, social media has just been an outpour of support for the family. So, it's difficult. It's it's a very tight bond they have. For years, he spoke about how difficult it was to fight in America without his father by his side. So you could potentially argue that, but it's different when his father's not well. I just think that changes, and I think, again, obviously I don't know, but I think fighting right now is the furthest thing from his mind. It's more of his father's well-being.
Yeah,
I'm also not sure how
agree.
keen the UFC are to do Conor and Justin. I just don't think it's a fight they're overly keen to make, actually.
Man, I disagree, actually, because like if Conor was to fight Gaethje, and let's say Gaethje wins the fight, they can go, yeah, we told you so, this guy's the true number one. If Conor was to beat Gaethje, they'll use MMA maths, and he would have beat Tony Ferguson, so it sets up the Khabib fight. So I think it's perfect for them. But I do believe Gaethje's in the position that he doesn't need the McGregor fight. Now, at the same time, if the Khabib fight, if Gaethje was to go to the Khabib fight and lose, how far does that drop him down to build him up? So you could look at potentially the McGregor fight as the one that's going to make you a lot of money. But Gaethje has said he's not really in it for money. He's in it for titles and for legacy. So I can see the fight again. The amount of fights we spoke about, do we see that could possibly happen? I do think it could happen, and I think it'd be a great fight.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see. Like Gaethje made some huge changes against Tony Ferguson. I think that was the best version of Gaethje we've seen. The cornering was phenomenal. Just taking him, stop trying to take his head off, cool down, and once he got past that, he just took over the fight. It became a very hard fight to watch because Ferguson was getting so heavily beat up. So again, I know I just criticize people for saying about the gas tank of Conor McGregor. The first round could be fun, but how's Conor McGregor going to be when he's beat the head off Gaethje if that was the case and Gaethje's still standing there, So I think it's an intriguing fight. I'd love to see that fight.
I'd like to see it too. Do you know what? I think that Conor would probably prefer the Usman fight. Just because you know how Conor is, like with the whole more championships. I think he'd look at that as like having that third championship would be a big thing for him.
He's like, if you look at Daniel Cormier, Daniel Cormier done the 2 belts, Cejudo done the 3 belts.
Yeah, so he's going to want to.
So he's looking, no, I gotta be, and that's how his mind works.
Yeah, exactly. So if he has 2 deals on the table and Usman is actually one that they're looking at, especially that Ali is manager for both Usman and Gaethje, so like he's involved in behind the scenes as well, so he's going to be pushing for probably the Usman fight because it seems like they really want Gaethje to get that Khabib fight whenever that's going to be. So it would not surprise me if they don't Usman. It would not surprise me. Alistair Rose said, hey guys,
position. He just has options now.
Exactly, yeah, he has loads of options. Alistair Rose said, hey guys, Justin is a winnable matchup. Another interim title justifies the Khabib matchup, rematch. I agree. Like, I mean, Justin made some, as Noel said, amazing adjustments in his last few fights, but like he's still open in the first round, and he was still open for a lot of the first and second round against Tony Ferguson. So, and that's where Conor's most dangerous. So I agree. I think it's a winnable fight. I think that's the right word, a winnable fight. Not saying he would win, but it's winnable.
So, and I know why people say it's a winnable fight, and I agree. But like, I think if you get put any 2 fighters in the cage together, it's a winnable fight for either one of them.
That's very true.
Mixed martial arts can end so many funky ways. Be a check leg kick that breaks your leg. Do you know what I mean? Be it a spinning back fist that you overextended on a jab, so you decide a better spin and you catch somebody with your forearm or your elbow. So there's so many facets and possibilities. And styles make matchups and all them versions and comments, but like Gaethje McGregor is winnable for both guys.
Yeah.
As is Usman. Like Usman got hit, man, by Covington. It shot could be landed at just lands and puts him out.
Yeah, I guess the right word would be like there's a path to victory for Conor against both guys, but I see one against Justin quite a bit. I don't think he's gonna. I probably favour Justin, but yeah, I see a path to victory.
Like I always stand out to me as Ben Forsyth. He fought out of SBG, fought at 205. Ben, he fought from middleweight up to 205. His last 2 fights are 205. And I remember talking to Ben, and he was saying he's never been hit as hard in his life as he has been in Conor in training. So that's a guy who's a big man. Ben's like 6'3", 240 pounds, and he's a big guy. And like, there's unfortunately whenever they talk about Conor McGregor on the RTE news here, they show a highlight of him knocking down Ben Forsyth in training. But Ben swears he's never been hit as hard in his life as he has been with Conor McGregor. So that's how hard he hits,
Yeah. I'm just going to go to the community tab and get a couple of questions, and post your questions in the live chat, because it's there's a lot of comments but not a lot of questions. Clint Reeves, and this was in the live chat as well by somebody. I can't remember who it was, but I'll find it in a minute. He asked, why has no one brought up Conor versus Colby? Seems like that fight would generate so much hype and hate. It will be very entertaining. Conor versus Colby, what do you think of that one, Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fucking tough matchup, I think, for Conor. But I mean, yeah, I don't think it makes too much. Like, it makes even less sense to Kamaru, really. At least with Kamaru, there's a belt.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much sense that one makes without a belt at 170. I think that's kind of feeding Conor to the wolves, is it?
Yeah, I think I'll throw it to you now in a second, now, but like, I think obviously coming off the loss for Colby, like, it's a tough matchup. It's not ideal, like, for Conor. It's not necessarily the most entertaining matchup. You know, it could actually be a little bit boring. I'm not sure if it would be, but it could be. And again, there's no title there, so I don't think there's any chance of it. But the build up will be fun. It'll definitely be fun. But I also think that Colby would be
very fun.
I think Colby would be wrecked with the trash talk. I don't think he has the wit. I think he has a lot of, you know, rehearsed lines, but I don't think he has the wit to deal with someone like Conor. I think he'd probably look a little bit silly in the end, to be honest.
I think it's a great fight, though. I get what you're saying about the trash talk. Like, Colby, like, everybody goes on about Colby. It was only, I watched that show with Brendan Schaub where they sit and eat a food truck, something, whatever it is. And he basically came out and said, yeah, this is all bollocks. Like, and how anyone believed everything he said was true, you know what I mean? Like, he's got the trumps in the audience, do you know what I mean? Like, that's how good his stick is. Interesting enough, I just read before we came on today that he's been removed from the American Top Team website, Colby.com.
Oh, well.
So I'm not too sure if they're just refreshing their page or if something's happened. But like, Colby is, for me, he is a dangerous, bad matchup for Conor McGregor. His style of fighting, his pressure, the way, like, Colby will take you down, not to really take you down and beat you up, but just take you down to make you get back up, and then he'll take you down again and beat you up and then let you get up and beat you up. And he just the fight before Usman, who did he fight before Usman?
Robbie Lawler. I was just going to talk about that. He looked phenomenal in that
Great
fight.
performance.
Unbelievable. And his gas tank for days. And even, like, if you look at the Usman fight, like, he went out in a shield and he didn't want it to end. His body was very similar to Rory McDonald and Robbie Lawler. His body just sort of went, fuck, no more, like, you know. Like, I think Conor wins the build up. He'd be in his head, so he might get him fighting emotionally. But I just think he's Nate Diaz pressure by 10. You know, like, Diaz is a different sort of, that all you got, take your punishment. While Colby be in your face and relentless.
His pressure and volume in that Lawler fight was insane.
Unbelievable. Just didn't smother them. So yeah, another great, like, matchup. Like, but that's what I sort of meant a moment ago when I said, you know, top 5 guys would be a struggle with, because Colby, as good as he looked against Lawler, his wrestling is top as well, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's in all facets, it could potentially be a bad matchup.
He looked great against Usman too. That was a great performance against a really tough guy. Like, a lot of heart.
He made that fight with a lot of credit.
Yeah, I agree.
Unbelievable fight. Yeah. Unbelievable.
And then he kind of, well, it doesn't really matter. Like, whatever. Like, you know, talk a sheep, but like, he came out and he was like, oh, you know, the referee and all this. I think he lost a little bit of the credit that he earned, but like, that doesn't matter. To me, it was an amazing performance either way. Phil Campbell.
At least he didn't say the ref stunk of booze and cigarettes.
Yeah. Have you seen the fake Keith Peterson Twitter account? Like, that must have been created a long time ago. Like, that guy was just waiting in the wings just for some time I'll get it.
I'd say he was like, I'm getting onto this the way. What was the other ref? Oh, fuck, his name is evading me there. Shaved head. He was locked up for marijuana. What was his name?
Oh, Josh Rosenthal.
Josh Rosenthal, yeah. Josh Rosenthal. I'd say he's seen that and he thought, I'm making it Keith Peters, because no nonsense Keith Peterson, you know, he's like 100% making the page, because he had retweeted like Big John McCarthy and heard
I know, yeah.
It looked as legit.
Oh, it looked so legit, because who would parody Keith Peterson for that long time? Like,
somebody that was in it for the long time.
Yeah, that's like the first guy who bought Bitcoin. You know, he just knows where this is going. Like, Phil Campbell, what do you think about the potential of a Jones versus Ngannou matchup at heavyweight? We'll go with that. So the current status on that, it looks like it's not going to happen because apparently the UFC aren't willing to budge on Jon Jones' contract. He's not getting any more money for a matchup with Ngannou. We can talk about that, but like, no, we kind of spoke about this before. We love the matchup, of course, but what's your thoughts on that matchup?
Like, say what you want about Ngannou, right? As in technique. But when you hit like a truck with a full load, it doesn't fucking matter, does it? Like,
No.
Equalizer.
I don't see Jon, like, Jon Jones could stand at distance, outpoint him, pick him apart, do all that, right? You know, like that aspect of the fight. I'd imagine you try and get in, take singles, get to take down. Jones has good wrestling. I'd imagine that'd be the game plan. But if Francis Ngannou hits him, do you know what I mean? It's
ridiculous.
Out. He's just got that fucking freak fucking power. Like if you look at the last knockout, like he literally came in swinging like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like he's gone, I'm gonna look at the clock and see exactly when I knock him out. His chin was everything that every coach tells you not to do.
Yeah.
But then he just hits like Thor's hammer, and that's it. So like, and Jones, if you look at Jones, like the Reyes fight, the Gustafsson fight, he gets hit, you know, and there's no apologizing when you get hit by Ngannou, and they're gone. So like, I think the allure and the pull for Jon Jones to go up the heavyweight is there, but I just think that's because he's beaten he's beaten the division at 205. And what happens is Jon Jones is that good that people want to see him get beat now. It happened with Anderson Silva, it happened with GSP, and it was happened with Matt Hughes back in the day as well. They're just so good and dominant that people want to see them lose.
Yeah.
The Dominic Reyes fight, I think they need to roll that back because I thought that was a superb matchup.
Yeah.
So I still think there's fights for Jones for 205. I don't think he necessarily has to move up to heavyweight, but if he did move up and fought Ngannou, that means he's got to go and fight Stipe then, you know. And I just think Stipe, he mightn't be as big a puncher as Ngannou or whatever, but he's a big guy too, you know. And I think the Stipe fight after Ngannou, if he was to get through Ngannou, was where Jon Jones would be found out at heavyweight. It's just different gravy. It's like a Muay Thai fighter kicking in the leg in comparison to a karate fighter. You know what I mean? One is going to score and the other is going to kick your fucking bone through your thigh. So it's just, if he lands, he puts him to sleep.
Do you know what, with the whole like heavyweight thing with Jon Jones, the only reason why I'm like, oh, please go to heavyweight is because like if you go back and you'd say like in 10 years and you look back and Jon Jones ends up losing, because most likely he'll lose eventually. He's going to lose to somebody unless, you know, he does a Henry Cejudo and retires in a couple of fights after he wins, but whatever. Eventually he's probably going to lose. And if it's to somebody like Reyes, who's obviously a really good fighter, but like I don't see him, you know, becoming a GOAT contender, you know. So I'd like to see Jon Jones at least go up to heavyweight, just from my mind of looking back and saying, all right, he went up, and if he lost in devastating fashion to some guy who hits like a truck. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just something that I want to see. But like for Jon Jones, that shouldn't matter. It's all about the money. If he's getting paid the exact same amount at light heavyweight, stay there.
It's almost reminiscent of all the fans wanting GSP to move up.
Yeah, it is.
That whole super fight, and that's how good Jon Jones is.
Yeah,
that people want to see him doing that. But like, what's Jones? Is he 6'3"? Is he 6'3"?
6'4", maybe.
Yeah, and he's got like his little noodle legs. Like, do you know what I mean? That's where the problem could come at heavyweight. You know what I mean?
He's deadlifting again, though. He's deadlifting again. You know what I mean?
But I do also think it's kind of weird with Jon Jones, and what I mean by this is, right, he should be able to, now he's probably on really good money. Like he's defended his title so many times, he's been a champion, so he's on champion money. So he's probably on like the higher end.
500k though, isn't it?
It's probably his contract pay, yeah.
Plus pay-per-view,
yeah. So
like, let's be honest. And again, I'm not saying he's afraid. I'd never say fighters are afraid. But you know, this could be just a bargaining chip to be like, I'm not fucking fighting that guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The whole situation though with the UFC, what's your thoughts on that? I'll go to you, Sean, first. But like, I have plenty of opinions about this. But like, essentially, the UFC are saying, you know, we don't care if you're going up taking this big risk to fight Ngannou. You're paid. This is what you signed. This is your contract. Go up and we'll see what happens afterwards. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he's absolutely more than entitled to ask for more money. He's the one taking all the risk here. I mean, I think it's lazy on the UFC's part because they don't need to do blockbuster pay-per-views like this one could be to make money anymore because of the ESPN guarantee. But there's no incentive on them to actually go out of their way to make this fight, really.
Yeah.
Because they're getting the guarantee from ESPN, even if the pay-per-view stinks the place out. So what's the incentive to do a blockbuster outside of McGregor? I think I totally agree with Jones. He's more than entitled to ask for more money. When he's moving up, he's a champion. He's a draw. It's heavyweight. There's a pandemic going on, so there's more risks involved as well.
Yeah.
I think he's absolutely entitled.
I completely agree with that. Like, I think he's definitely entitled to ask for more money for something like that. But like, I look at it a different way, and maybe this is not the correct way to look at it. Maybe people will say this is stupid, but like, I don't think the argument of that it's a bigger risk, as in like, you know, this guy could knock me out or whatever. I think that's just part of the game. Like, it's always going to be a risk, like whatever it is. Of course, it is a bigger risk, but I don't think they can make that argument. But if Jon Jones is going to make that move, and he's, you know, you should make more money off Jon Jones going up and fighting one of these big guys. You know, in theory, that should happen. I think the people involved, everyone involved, should get a cut of that. So I think if Jon Jones goes up and the UFC make more money off that, then Jon Jones should be entitled to more money. And I think that's where I disagree with the UFC.
So the UFC have kind of told him before that you need to go up to heavyweight to get these big paydays, haven't they?
I think they have.
Now that he kind of wants to, and they're kind of reneging on that promises. It's not really a promise, but that word that they gave him that you need to move up is kind of odd.
Yeah.
Like to do the UFC, I'll play the company man card here as the devil's advocate.
DC over here.
DC has been playing.
But if they were to bump his money up to fight, why didn't they set a precedent? Do you know what I mean? You've had Conor McGregor do it, you have Daniel Cormier do it, you have Henry Cejudo do it. So what's any different to Jon Jones? So if they were to do that, they're setting a precedent.
I think they already have, though.
And essentially, it's the valuing a little bit of if you were to stay in your division and win.
I agree with that.
DC
I agree with that anyway. Yeah.
Like, go back even further. Randy Couture was doing this shit when it was uncool. Fucking Dan Henderson was doing it over in Pride. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of examples of guys jumping up. End of the day, it's up to you. What do you value yourself at? If Jon Jones values that he should be getting more money and he doesn't go up because of that, us fans are going to lose out and seeing it. But like, Jon Jones has to be true to his own value. You know what I mean? He's got to pay off fucking pregnant women somehow, you know?
I do think there is a point where you have to accept the risk and reward, and you're not necessarily going to get the top of your range of money that you want. There is a range or a point where you have to go, look, there's a risk here, but if I win, the reward is massive for my legacy and for my future rewards. So like there's an implied odds there on how much he can earn in the future that I think he might have to take. So
yeah,
there's that as well.
Yeah, no, there is. Phil Campbell also talking about a potential interim title on that fight if it happened. I wouldn't have a huge problem with that, especially for Ngannou. Yeah. Like, say what you will about Jones.
An interim on the last fight. So.
Yeah, like Ngannou's been waiting around, and he's going to be waiting for a while until Stipe and Cormier get their thing out of the way. What's your thoughts? No.
On being an interim?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with Stipe and Miocic like holding his title. Do you know what I mean? They were talking about stripping him. You're talking about a man who works in fire service. Do you know what I mean? He's an emergency worker. He's a key worker. If they were to strip him, oh my God, how much of a dick of a company would the UFC look? Fuck it, why not? There's a bad motherfucker belt out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
And like they only, like, let's be honest, we all know what an interim is, and unless, do you know what I mean, you're Colby Compton, an interim normally means you're number one contender. Do you know what I mean? And that's it. So it's a
take it for more money, isn't it? It's basically
it's just a boost for the pay-per-views.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, like, no harm. Like in Ngannou, I think we always say this about heavyweight as well. Do you know what I mean? Like heavyweight, you'd see Alistair Overeem, he lose a fight and you go, oh, there's Alistair Overeem's career. Fuck. And he wins a fight and all of a sudden he's back in title contention. So that's you know, ironically how thin the heavyweight division is. So like you know, Ngannou was, you could argue, was come on leaps and bounds since the Stipe one. Well, you look at his lad, like if you take away the knockout, show Ngannou running forward and show any coach in the world, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, what is he doing?
I always come back to Deontay Wilder's quote on this fight. I think it was a really good line that he said before the second Fury fight. He said Fury needs to be perfect for 36 minutes, and it ended up being shorter than that. Yeah. But I only need to be perfect for a split second to land that. That I think that's the same again.
The great equalizer. Yeah. But that's what we always say as well about Ngannou, is like, people are like, I think he's made improvements. It's like, I hope he has, but I haven't seen any improvements. He's just fucking knocking guys out really quickly, and he done that before the Stipe thing. So Yeah. Tail of the tape. This is a stretch, but let's say Conor fights and beats Usman and Khabib beats Gaethje. What weight class would Khabib versus Conor 2 be at? It's got to be lightweight. Like anything else but lightweight. But that's their weight class. I don't care where Conor fights.
Lightweight title. Yeah, I think a lightweight title is the only thing that gets Conor to weigh in at 155 again.
Yeah. But also, for Khabib's sake, though, he already defended his belt.
Conor could technically do something he's never done in his career if he was to beat Usman, and that would be defend the belt.
Yeah, that's true. That's why it'd never be at welterweight, because he's not going to defend the belt.
No, but that could be the Lord, isn't it? Because that's one thing. Cardio and never defending the belt, so he could get rid of 2 of them by beating Khabib at 170.
I guess it depends as well. It has to be fair on Khabib. Like, I was just thinking of it in Conor's mind, because he's like, do you remember the whole thing with Nate where he lost to Nate at 170 and he was like, let's do it again at 170. Has to be. Yeah. So I'd feel the same, but you know.
Do you know what would have been fantastic though during this pandemic? If Khabib and Conor were to fight one another in an empty stadium.
Oh jeez, imagine that.
That would be
because like that would be just the fight ends. Everyone would be like, right, pay attention.
Yeah.
You know?
We spoke about this already, Noel. It's so cool watching. You'd have better experience just being around cages and stuff, but it's so cool watching the fights and being able to hear every like gasp when a shot to the body lands or everything from the corners and stuff. It's like we kind of get desensitized to the violence after just watching so many fights. So it's cool. It's a different experience when you're watching a fight on the television.
No, I agree. Like that's what I was saying about the Gaethje Ferguson fight. If there was a crowd, if there was a crowd at that fight, the crowd would have been losing their shit, and you probably wouldn't have heard some of the shots, but you could literally hear the shots landing on Tony Ferguson, and that's what made it so difficult.
Really?
It's the same with like Phil's in the chat there. Phil will remember this, like in Matisse Zarhoff's checked the kick over in Jordan and the leg snapped. And it was literally like, to how it sounded to me in the broadcast, it was like somebody got like a plank of wood and snapped it right beside me in the air. It was like a baseball bat crashing. Like, so you can only imagine if the arena was empty to hear. Like if you take the Weidman, Anderson Silva, imagine if that was in an empty stadium and he checked that kick. You know, it's not a sound. It is an unmistakable sound when you hear it too.
Yeah. It's disgusting. So Conor released his GOAT list. I'm sure he's all seen it. Now I need to think of it off the top of my head, but I'm going to try to find it while we're talking. But there's a lot of people interested in what our GOAT lists are, so I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm giving you top 5 greatest fighters of all time. You know, these can be changed down the line. It's not set in stone, but let's give it a go.
Are we doing a top 5? We have to agree with each other?
No. Give your top 5 like of what you think. So I guess go with number 1. We'll go greatest of all time. No, we'll throw it to you because you're the guest. Why not? Who's your greatest fighter of all time?
I think we were just talking about him. I think Jon Jones is the best to do it that I've seen. He's like has what? How many title defenses does he have? Because I don't have all that information. A lot. He's a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
He's
more if he didn't get stripped for doing certain things.
Yeah. Could be argued that he's not lost a fight in his career. The DQ. Some people think, obviously Reyes beat him.
Trying to get that overturned as well.
But I think and Rob, I remember me and you had this conversation. Like, is Jon Jones that good, or did he just fight his opponents at the right time in their career for his benefit?
Yeah.
But I don't think you can dispute Jon Jones.
Sean,
potentially GSP.
I've had some time to think about this over lockdown. I think Jones probably is my number 1 as well. And I don't like saying it because I think he's a prick, and he's probably done some dodgy stuff in his time when it comes to.
Sean, he probably thinks you're a prick too. So
big fan of the show
as well. Like at the end of the day, so
yeah.
Jones is probably the number 1. Like he did everything so young as well. Like the guys he was beating when he was so young as well is insane. And let's have a right. He did most of it coked out of his mind, which is even more impressive.
I'll take GSP, but like I think it's very hard to argue against Jones just because he's never lost. The Hamill thing and then the no contest, like whatever. But like I just think for the fact that he was doing something in at least one fight. I'm going to take a little bit of credit away from him. GSP at least was never caught, and I don't think he ever took something. There was the whole greasing thing, but we'll forget about that one. We'll let that one slip. Hey. Number 2, I'll just take Jones because he was close. So number 2, Noel.
Yeah, I'm with George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
Like when you look at like you get like a lot of people like when GSP first came on the scene, you know, he was this crazy. He was very exciting fighter. You know what I mean? But he adopted
Very.
his style, and he was so hard to beat. Very difficult. He obviously had the Matsura where he got clipped or whatever, came back avenged that. But then
Strider.
to take time off to come back and beat Bisping the way he did as well. Do you know what I mean? Phenomenal. The guy is very close. If you took personalities into it in the true martial arts form, GSP would be number one for me, and Jon Jones, because he's a bit of a dick, would be number two. But
Jones would be in your top 5 if you were doing it that way.
Yeah, I gotta go with GSP.
Yeah, I'll take GSP as well.
Cool. So
For every reason I've outlined below.
I think this is where maybe number 3 is not dicey, but like I think it starts to get dicey as you go down the list now. So Noel, we'll throw it back to you. What's your number 3?
Oh, it's tainted because you don't know how long it went down for.
Yeah.
It's got to be Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
Anderson Silva. Like I always remember, like it was a cage rage in the UK, and then when he signed to the UFC, and I loved the crippler Chris Lieben, and I was like, oh, and he could even Joe Rogan was like, poor fucking Chris Lieben. Why does it have to be Chris Lieben? But Anderson Silva, for what, like when you look at what he done to Rich Franklin, who was dominant middleweight champion. Rich Franklin was fantastic.
He was excellent. Yeah, he's a great fighter.
Phenomenal. And absolutely, I'll never forget Rich Franklin's face after that.
I know.
Like, oh my, just that
and
Muay Thai plum and everybody. Yeah. Like that was the thing with Anderson. You knew he was going to grab that plum, and he just could not get out of it. Just unbelievable. But then, you know, dick pills, shit like that. So you question how long it went on for. I'd like to think it's just because he got older, and you know, that was the angle. Yeah. But Anderson Silva, prime Anderson Silva. And it's the weird thing because I would say I was guilty of. I wanted to see Anderson Silva get beat because he was that good. So I became guilty of that cohort of people that was like, oh, I want to see him lose. Because I'll never ever forget. I was standing in a bar in Dublin, and it was the Chris Weidman fight, and some guy was watching. It was just on. It was like a UFC fight night. You know the way they used to do the show. It might have been like Unleashed or something, whatever it was. The UFC fights were on the TV in the bar, and some guy was going, "Oh, that Anderson Silva guy is so overrated. I never get it." And I'm there going, "Oh,
fuck that guy.
I have to leave this bar."
Yeah.
If he had a South Dublin accent like that, he definitely deserved to have his opinion taken.
Awesome. I'll take Anderson as well with the caveats that Noel gave for number 3.
I have Anderson with a question mark beside it.
Yeah, so we've rearranged all our top 3s anyway, so let's see if we can get some diversity in number 4. Noel, and throw back to you. Number 4, GOAT. Where are you going?
I'm interested now to see where we go with number 4 and 5.
And put your picks in the chat as well.
Demetrius Johnson.
Nice. I can see it. I'll take Cormier.
Oh,
Daniel Cormier.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna sound like I'm copying Noel, but DJ is who I was gonna take. Yeah, and then for me, DC is my number 5.
Okay, straight into number 5.
Yeah.
Noel, do you have number 5?
Funnily, again, you introduced this, Rob, at the start when I came on to say if you're a long time watcher or listener, you recognise me from when we started this show, and I was vastly outspoken about, I think he was a little bit overrated, but I'm torn between Fedor and DC.
Unbelievable.
Like obviously Fedor has done the thing that happened to a lot of fighters. He went on too long, you know what I mean? So he can wipe away the Ryan Bader, Matt Mitrione loss, I think. You could even argue Dan Henderson and beating Bigfoot. You know what I mean? Maybe he fought on too long there. And then when you look down at the who's who or who he's beat, Yeah, I gotta go with Fedor.
Oh, nice. That was my number 5 as well, Fedor. The guys he beat in his prime was just unbelievable. Like the Nogueiras, the Crow Cops, amazing fights.
I always used to argue Robbie Una.
Oh, I think we lost
He
Noel there.
was beating his former champions when they were Washington, but they weren't. Like, as in, sorry, I was just saying, like, I know I used to speak, they fought guys at the right time and stuff like that, like the Andrei Arlovskis. But you look at Arlovsky when he fought him. Arlovsky was beating Fedor. He got caught with an unbelievable shot, got knocked out. And Arlovsky still went on and had a successful career since then.
He won a couple of weeks ago.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What would Henry Cejudo, does he even come close to getting a mention in any of your lists? Does he rank highly for you?
I think he's probably top 10 for me. I think he's probably close to top 10.
He's put together some body of work if you look at it.
Yeah, he has.
No, he has, but I think longevity plays a big part in the list there. If we look at like Jon Jones, GSP, Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnson, Fedor on my list, right? If you look at them, these guys were around for so long. Like out of that list, well, technically 4 of them are still competing, really, aren't they? Maybe GSP and Anderson Silva is the check mark against that. But you know, Henry Cejudo was like a thief in the night. He came in, he had his career, he got in, got it done, and got it out. I'm not disputing him, but I think the longevity aspect of somebody who was the GOAT would go against Henry Cejudo, in my opinion. That would be the only change. Like, as in, I would put Dominic Cruz ahead of Henry Cejudo in bantamweight because of longevity.
I think that makes sense, doesn't it? I think Habib is up there as well. Like, I think he ranks higher. Like, people kind of forget about him. He's still going, but like, it's a few more fights.
Habib, though, what I'd say about Habib, Robin, Jesus, if Brendan Dorman could hear me now, I'd be fucking getting shouted at. You know, we don't know a lot of his early fights with Habib. You know, like we do in his UFC reign. He's been phenomenal. I think if we were to have this conversation in 2 years' time, and Habib was to maybe fight 3, 4, 5 more times against the top, if he was to fight Gaethje, if he was to fight, let's say, Conor again, if he was to fight Tony Ferguson, if that ever happened, and he was to get these wins on his record and stay undefeated, then it doesn't necessarily have to stay undefeated, but fight these guys, I think Habib is in that conversation. And Conor McGregor doesn't make it in my top 10 if you were going to ask that question.
Yeah, like I think the multiple titles is good, but like I think the fact that he hasn't defended any,
and it goes against him.
It goes against him a lot, I think.
Goes against him in that sense. And Ben Askren made a really good point. And this is funny because I'm going to compare this, because this is what came into my mind when Ben Askren said it. He said Conor McGregor wouldn't be in the top 5 GOATs because he lost to Nate Diaz. So in that same way, is GSP not in his top 5 because he lost to Matt Serra?
Yeah, like, I mean, when you put those hard press rules on it, it gets a bit tricky, doesn't it?
Like, and then I do think you have to go like historically. If you look back further again, and you have to look at the likes of a Randy Couture. Randy's up there. You have to look at like the likes of Chuck. Obviously, Chuck Liddell was a fighter who hung around too long. Would Chuck's style suit the UFC now? No, it wouldn't. But the sport has evolved. Then there's older, like Hoyce Gracie. Like, is Hoyce Gracie in this conversation? Do you know what I mean? There's you know what I mean? It depends how far you want to look back.
Exactly,
you know?
There's actually a question similar to that we'll talk about in a minute. It's the Mount Rushmore of MMA, which is, the way he framed it is basically the most kind of influential pioneers type thing. So we'll have that discussion now in a minute, but there's a few other questions I want to get to so we don't get too deep into that. Michael O'Brien, thoughts on Usman stating he'd be willing to sign a no takedowns contract for rounds 1 and 2 with McGregor. Basically, Usman stand up or what?
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Ali Al-Aziz tweeted that out, didn't he?
That's bullshit.
That's shit talk.
Yeah.
What would happen there if that was the case? If you got hit with one solid shot, he's gonna revert. Like a wrestler, you know, you see it in a lot of fighters when they get hurt, they revert back to original.
I'd hate to see that though. I'd hate to see that even like fuck that. Like, it's MMA.
Yeah. It's not MMA.
It's like, that's like Floyd coming across and saying, we'll fight in MMA gloves.
Yeah. Or it's like the whole Kimbo. Do you remember the Kimbo thing? Where, like, I'm not sure what opponent it was, but one of his opponents was basically discouraged by the promoter to not shoot for takedowns. Like, don't be shooting for takedowns. I don't think. I'm not sure. No, I think. No, I don't think it was Seth. I think it was the opponent before that. But it basically killed the promotion. But yeah, fuck that shit. No No time for that.
And that's never going to happen either. It's absolute shake talk.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, complete shite talk. That's
not the,
posturing.
Yeah, that's not the sport we like. That is just saying we're that good that we'll fight in your realm. That's all that is. That's
Yeah. It's basically Floyd Mayweather, as you said, saying, I'll go
Yeah.
over and do MMA. Never done it. John C., what do you guys think of Mike Perry firing his cornerman? He says he doesn't need advice, just someone to give him water and ice his back. Ooh.
He also blocked Aaron Till on Instagram.
Did he? That relationship took a turn, didn't it?
Yeah.
No,
they're
it
getting on well for a while.
started with the spa or the spar.
I want to kick your man in the face, he said.
What the hell? So we're
Weird.
Till
Sean-
is fucking killing it on Instagram.
Sean tagged me on an Instagram post of Till just eating on camera, just
I see that, yeah.
really loudly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's bizarre, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
Mike Perry for the longest time, a lot of people have been saying needs a good coach, needs a good cornerman. Now he has no coach, apparently, no cornerman.
Well, his ex-missus has cornered him a good few times.
Is that his ex now? Is it? I thought they were
Yeah, I
back
think-
together.
No, because the pictures he's putting up is some brown hair girl, no?
Oh Jesus! Fair enough.
It is
Yeah.
just stubbornness on his part, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's weird because like when we had Brendan on a few times, Noel, and I think Sean, you were on the show when we had him on, and he was talking about this. But basically, he was like, he was analysing him and said that he's seen a lot of potential in him, but like
Yeah.
you know, it's not gonna happen if he's doing stuff like this. So it's not great.
He was putting up videos on Instagram there the other day, and sort of tagging Till, saying, "Oh yeah, here I come, watch this star and look at these body shots," and like it looked awful. Like it looked fucking terrible. Like he looked like, I'd say the guy he was fighting or sparring, I should say, just got off work and made his way to the gym and got beaten up by a professional UFC fighter. That's what it looked like. The guy who he was sparring against may as well have been my next door neighbour. And that's what it was. He was just stood there. No, he's not. He's a builder. He just literally guarded up and was letting Perry hit him. And you're like, what are you posting that
Probably
for?
picking those bins up on Wednesday. Then.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Tell the tape said it was Seth Petrozelli, so well done, Noel.
Thank you.
It was Phil Campbell who asked the question about the Mount Rushmore of MMA. I believe on Mount Rushmore there's 4 heads. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think there's 4 heads of presidents.
Can we name the real Mount Rushmore?
Oh jeez, don't do that. Don't put us on the spot.
Washington Roosevelt, is it?
Benjamin Franklin.
That's
Link.
the kind of knowledge
there.
I don't have.
George
Donald
Washington.
Trump.
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, I got 3 out of 4.
Yeah, well done. So let's do it. On your Mount Rushmore of MMA, so we're going to go like pioneers and why they should be here. Because there's plenty of pioneers in MMA, but why? What's the big ones? I'll go first. I'll take the easy one. Hoist Gracie. Like, how can it not be? You got to go with Hoist Gracie. No explanation required.
No, explain why. What?
Jiu-jitsu and, you know, the creation of the UFC, you know. Blah, 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 blah,
Jiu-jitsu,
blah.
yes.
This one will cause people fucking freaking out, but I'm gonna say fuck it. Ronda Rousey, because UFC
Fair
would
enough.
not have female fighters if it wasn't for Ronda Rousey. I'm not saying she's the best female MMA fighter, but UFC literally created a division for her, and so they could have her on their books. So Ronda Rousey there for her influence.
Javon, no, Sean.
Yeah, I'll take the Fertitas.
Oh, fair enough. It's out of the box and think of that one.
Yeah,
Technically, it was
I know it's two.
It's Dana really, and they just support.
Or you just go with
no,
Art Davey or something. Go Art Davey or something like
Art
that.
Davey.
Um,
I think Chuck has to be up there. I think Chuck brought a lot of eyes to MMA.
yeah.
He brought my eyes to it. Like Chuck is almost like, if you compare it to the WWE, he was the Generation X fighter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was the first real rock and roll, as you can see by him being in a Nickelback video. But yeah, he was the first real sort of rock and roll.
Don't call them
fighter
rock and roll.
with the mohawk, the tattoo. You know what I mean? He was,
Looked so badass. It was unbelievable.
he was the man that brought people in. Like,
Yeah. Do you ever go back and watch old Chuck Liddell fights and like that chap wasn't like, he was in decent shape, but it's like, man, he could have been in such better shape. He just went out partying all the time. Some lad.
Yeah. Muffin top.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
I'll take Sakuraba because of his like Japanese MMA influence.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think Pride wouldn't have been as big as it was without Sakuraba.
Bob Sapp maybe up there. No?
Bob Sapp.
Um, fuck it, it's so difficult because
Yeah,
like
there's so many.
influencers, there is so
To
many.
pick four is so tough.
I think GSP has to be up there as well. Do you know what I mean? Like if we take mixed martial arts for what it is, martial arts, like GSP was one of the best martial artists that competes, and he sort of lives the embodiment of martial arts.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
For my third, I'll take Randy. You know, big influence style wrestling
yeah,
thing, and you know.
yeah. I think you could pick Randy or Chuck. You know what I mean? Both
Yeah,
same era. It was
yeah,
almost Oasis or Blur. You know, you're either Couture or
yeah.
Phil coming in with
Coleman,
Coleman.
like
Coleman, yeah.
like Coleman could be in there. You know, the
I think,
Godfather of ground and pound.
I think, I firmly believe you could. This Mount Rushmore of MMA should be a mountain range.
Yeah,
Because, like,
Not
yeah,
more than four people. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it falls under different genres. You know what I mean? Like you could have the modern day Mount Rushmore, you could have a Japanese Mount Rushmore. Do you know what I mean? So it's one that's obviously, you know, this is like the name your starting 11 of best footballers. You know what I mean? It depends when you were born. Depends when
yeah.
you started
like
watching the
someone who
sport.
deserves a
I can
mention is
guarantee if somebody's listening to this right now, absolutely triggered that like Conor McGregor's not in it. Do you know what I mean? What are you
Yeah, I
talking
know.
about? He done so much, you know, and or Tito Ortiz. You know what I mean? Another trailblazer, Tito.
Tio could be it, yeah.
Just a dick, like, but like, yeah, Tito, you know.
Or maybe even like Ken Shamrock, you
Yeah.
know? Like I think Tito was probably more important. Like they obviously had that feud that basically saved the UFC, but like Ken was like early days and, you know, kind of not late days, but you know, he was like the UFC 40s ish there that saved with him and Tito. So
And then like you look at it, like what fighters like Hoist Gracie obviously changed their perception of fighting, right, with the small guy beating people up with jiu-jitsu, right? So, you know, if you look at that modern day era, Brock Lesnar changed the heavyweight division. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, everybody was 265 pounds and jacked to fuck. So he changed it. Then Cain Velasquez,
needles in his ass.
then Cain Velasquez came in, beat him, and sort of showed a blueprint of how to beat him. Alistair Overeem then done it as well, Uber him. But so I think it is in stages, and like there's no doubt Brock Lesnar brought hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of fans
game changer.
through his WWE.
There's lots of non-fighters that have to get a mention.
Oh
as well.
yeah,
Like Joe Rogan
tons
has
of
to
them.
get a mention.
Yeah, that's a good point. Dana, like you have, like why can't you have to give Dana a show? Saki Ibarra, you know, the Yakuza,
Ali
maybe.
Abdelaziz, maybe.
Yeah, maybe Ali.
Well, if you're going that way, you gotta go Buffer, haven't you?
Oh yeah,
And then you could put Goldie up, and make
Rich
a mistake
Goins.
doing it, and put Goldie up, make a mistake doing it, and put another Goldie up.
Yeah, we have plenty there. I think we filled the mountain range of Mount Rushmore. But yeah,
Kevin Random and somebody's
Random,
just
yes.
Random, and you know what I mean.
There's so many. Like it's very hard to narrow it down.
That's why they have a Hall of Fame and not a mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They just stick a picture frame of somebody up rather than fucking getting somebody out with a chisel and hammer to fucking put a picture in a mountain.
Yeah. We'll go for another 15 to 20 minutes or so, and then we'll call it a day. So make sure you hit that like button and send in loads of questions before we go. Because we have Noel here, and you know he's not always here, so you know get them in. Aidan, what do you make of Pete Carroll being let go by MMA fighting? Tough times ahead for young journos trying to earn a buck. Did you listen to the last episode? Man, awful to see. Like Pete was doing some great work over there. It seemed like Eurobash was going very, very well for them. Like, and I think they did kind of shine a pretty big light on a lot of European MMA that maybe American fans in particular didn't see. And of course, like Pete's a really nice guy, so it's not good to see. But you know, he'll bounce back. He'll find somewhere to go. I'm sure he's probably talking to people already. So you know, there's that. It seems like with MMA fighting that they're losing a lot of people anyway, or they lost a lot of people. So I'm not sure how long they're going to be around. Hopefully they will be around for a while, because it was one of my go-tos for a long time. But yeah, not good to see, but I'm sure PT will be back. And I haven't actually listened to the latest Eurobash just yet. Thoughts, Noel?
Yeah, PT, like I know PT a long time from the scene over here. Outside of him being a really nice guy, he is a superb MMA journalist. Like he picked up a lot, as you said, Rob. A lot had moved away from MMA fighting. obviously you had Chuck Minholland on the show a fair bit. You know what I mean? Luke Thomas, Earl Huang, they all moved away. So there was a little bit of pressure in MMA fighting, and I thought Peachy picked the ball up and ran and scoring touchdowns with it. Look, using Americanization is brilliant. But I thought Peachy was doing phenomenal work, and I still think Peachy will do phenomenal work. Whatever he goes to, wherever he goes, be it ESPN because he has friends there now, or wherever he ends up, he'll continue to do great work. It's sad to see it. You hate to see somebody lose work, so hopefully it gets resolved quicker. I haven't watched or listened to Eurobash. Unfortunately, like not the rest of the country that's in lockdown, I'm still working 5 days a week, so my podcast listening isn't getting to go through the roof. But I wish Peachy the best because he is genuinely, I don't mean in Ireland, I don't mean in Europe, he's genuinely one of the best MMA journalists out there.
Yeah.
I think if any MMA website has a bit of sense, like any of them out there did have a good acquisition in picking up Eurobash as a podcast. Yeah.
And sure, you never know, like MMA fighting, once this whole thing goes past, maybe they'll be looking to bring him back in. You never know. Who knows?
Yeah, it is ongoing as well. I mean, John Morgan was furloughed.
Yeah, he's furloughed.
MMA junkie there as well. Or furloughed,
I was going to say I got my furlouged, Sean.
That's the Irish. That's the Irish pronouncing.
Gone down home too long.
Yeah, it's not great, but again, he'll be back. But yeah, the whole thing on podcast, I haven't listened to anything, nothing. No. It's very hard. Like when you work at home, I don't
want to say anything because in case anyone from work was watching.
I'm too busy.
I'm really busy.
John says Spotify gave Joe Rogan 100 million for an exclusive deal. How much do you think you could get? We need to get young Sean to fight Island on Food Truck Diaries. I'd love to see Sean on Food Truck Diaries with Brendan.
Can't eat that. I'll have a Coke Zero.
It'll have to be an allergen friendly Food Truck Diaries.
Yeah, that'd be great. But 100 million for Joe Rogan's podcast. We got to get $1 million, right?
Money, man.
Just one. We can get one of them.
I do it for a crate of Lucozade and
yeah.
Great news for Joe Rogan, though. In fairness, dude. Be a fan or not a fan of Joe Rogan, but the guys before I was just saying, I don't get to listen to the podcast. I was actually listening to the Kevin Hart one, and like what I love about Joe Rogan is he can happily sit and try and just stop Eddie Bravo talking about fucking chemtrails and stuff, but at the same time, we can sit down with Elon Musk and hold a conversation. So I think he's an extremely talented host, and fair play to him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He puts on a lot, like, you know what I mean? He puts a lot into the show. And it just goes to show, you know what I mean? Anyone can hold a podcast as but
us idiots.
To bring it to a certain level is obviously it helps that he's involved in the UFC.
Of course, yeah. But have you looked at his like first few podcasts? They're hilarious. Like it's him sitting with a webcam on him with his mates on just a sofa. Looks like casting couch or something stupid.
Imagine how much weed he can buy for 100 million as well.
Yeah, I know. But it's crazy. And the thing is as well, like a lot of people are saying, oh, Joe Rogan sold out. Man, he's been doing this for fucking years. Like he's been doing it like by himself for years. Like it's about time he just got the money and, you know, cashed in on it.
Selling out isn't, as he said, Spotify have bought.
Jesus, that would have been great if that went through.
It's the new chair. It's
a great television.
They're saying he sold out. He didn't sell out. Spotify bought the rights to the show. If you read what Joe Rogan says, he hasn't given up any rights. He owns the content. He's not changing anything. So power to him. You know, that's just people who are assholes who don't like to see people succeed.
Yeah. Any more questions in the live? Jesus, no. Some people saying that McGregor, Mount Rushmore because of the attraction of new fans in 2014, 2016.
There's definitely an argument.
There's an argument. You can make the same argument that you could make for Brock Lesnar, I guess. You know, bringing in a new cohort of fans. But yeah, Michael O'Brien. Anyone got word on Darren Till and Whittaker in August? How Ireland would be viewed if they gave allowance to the UFC and GAA didn't get the go ahead? I suppose it depends on which phase we're in by August.
It's not happening. They've already ruled out big arena shows till the end of September anyway. So
there we go. Not happening. It's a shame, but like, you know, it is what it is. It's bigger things, bigger fish to fry, as they say.
Yeah, Darren's probably eating the fish.
Yeah. I'd like to
Put it
see
on
them
his
though
Instagram.
keep yeah. I'd like to see them keep that fight together though. That's a great fight. Him and Whitaker.
Yeah.
Really good fight. One or two more questions and then we will get out of here. Sean, who wins the English 2000 Guineas? Is that a race? A horse race or something?
That's flat racing, and that's for
Oh,
posh
for
people,
fucking
and I
hell.
don't follow it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I don't follow
Do
flat racing.
explain.
Sorry,
Why
I'm
not?
only joking about the posh people. I don't follow flat racing. It's boring to me. It's just a lot of horses running in a straight line. There's no jumps or anything that can happen.
Yeah. You're always slagging
Like
sports
the
you don't
jumps,
like, saying they're posh.
I know. I just don't. I can't
Are
get
you
into it.
talking about horse racing, Sean, that's funded by millionaires as a posh sport?
I know. The jumps is just far more exciting because there's jumps and they can fall. And like the best horse, the quickest horse doesn't necessarily win, which the quickest
Yeah.
horse just wins in a sprint, which is what the
Come here.
flat racing is.
I just want to point out, obviously, put my Brave Combat Federation hat on here. Mohammed Fakardin is a fighter in Brave Combat Federation, and he fought in the KHK World Title where it was the gold belt online. He fought in an open weight tournament where he normally fights at middleweight, and everyone he fought was at heavyweight, basically. He got to the final, but he lost in the final. And he talked about how the winnings, it was 100k for the winner, would have been life changing for him. Unfortunately, his house in Lebanon has burned down. Yeah,
Oh,
there was an electrical fault in his house, and the house is completely burnt out. So there was a GoFundMe page set up by Tarek Suleiman on his behalf. So I just thought I'd give it a shout out. If you go and check it out on Instagram or on Facebook, there's a GoFundMe page there. They're trying to raise, I think they're trying to raise $15,000. So I think they're up to about 9 or 10,000 when I last checked
wow.
it. But I know it's hard times for everyone here. But if anyone, you know what I mean, if you followed Mohammed Fakardin or you follow Brave Combat Federation, you're very familiar with Mo. He's one of the most entertaining fighters on the roster, one of the biggest fighters out of the Middle East, and just so happens to be one of the nicest guys in the world. And he smashed Phil Campbell's nose wide open on the jiu-jitsu roll as well. So
Oh, jeez, I'll give him some money for that.
You had to get that last in, didn't you?
So he's a proper nice guy. So if you can, anything you can, go on and just help a man get back on his feet, young family.
Yeah.
It'd mean a lot to
Uh,
him.
send us the link after this now. I'll throw it in the description of this. Really quick, Alistair Rowe said, fights this weekend? Yeah, we didn't talk about any of the fights this weekend, even though I stuck it onto the headline of this. So let's quickly...
just got commissioned to go ahead in the Apex.
The Apex, which I'm very happy about because I think that's the best place for it to go. So quickly, let's jump through a couple of the fights on the card and just give us your thoughts on what you think, results and how it's going to go. So main event, Tyron Woodley, Gilbert Burns. Sean, do you like the fight and who do you see winning this one?
I think it's a great fight. Credit to Tyron Woodley for taking like a really tough matchup for him on pretty short notice. I mean, he was scheduled to fight Leon Edwards for a long time. He's out of the cage a long time now as well. If you look at it, was it March 19? I think he fought. But for me, Gilbert Burns at 13-8 is my bet of the night.
Yeah, I like it. I like the matchup. I think Gilbert Burns is a really good fighter for the weight class. Tyron Woodley, I don't know why, but he strikes me as a guy who, I don't know, I just feel like he's kind of at the end of his rope in this division. I don't know why. Like he's saying the right things. I think, it's one loss. He's coming off, of course, it was a, whatever. But I don't know. I just get that feeling. Do you ever get that feeling with some fighters where you're just like, I don't think they're going to turn it back around? And I just have that feeling with Tyron Woodley. He has a lot of things going on in the rest of his life. So I don't know. I see Gilbert Burns here winning this fight. I think it's a good matchup for him. But yeah, I don't know. I just have that feeling that Tyron Woodley just won't really get back to a title picture.
That's interesting. I think both of you are guilty of judging a fighter off his last fight.
Probably.
And short memories. When you look at what he done, he had very difficult fights against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson because of the styles. I thought a very unanimous win over one of the best grapplers to ever do it in MMA over Damian Maia. Darren Till sort of fought his fight, clipped him and choked him out. Do you know what I mean? Danny Usman, I think Woodley is champ level. I think it's going to be too much for Burns and gets the win here. I can see it going decision, but I can see one thing about I just think people underestimate the thinking and how Woodley approaches fights.
Yeah.
And you can see that he's aware that sometimes it's a tactical battle. And I just think he just wasn't. I think his mindset was off in the Usman fight, whatever it was. It didn't look like Tyron Woodley I've ever seen fight before. So potentially, I think people are judging it off that. As I just said, you two are. I could be wrong. You two could be right. I hope yous are wrong, because I honestly think that Woodley always got the hard end of the stick from fans. I think he's a high level athlete, a high level fighter, and I just think he's going to be too much.
Yeah, I do think you're right on that.
He
Like,
got a rough end of the stick from fans and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And Dana, because like a lot of times Dana will come out against some fighter and then a lot of fans will kind of follow him. That generally happens. But yeah, he's had some really, tough fights stylistically, I think, Tyron Woodley. And I think that's half the battle that he's kind of gone through. But yeah, fair enough. The card isn't great, but there's one or two fights, or two even fighters that I'm kind of interested in. I think Roosevelt Roberts against Brock Weaver. I think Roberts is a pretty good prospect. I'm not sure if you've seen too much of him, but that's one to look out on. Big guy yeah.
Sorry, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, just a rangy guy for lightweight, and I think he's very, very skilled.
I'm just getting my little girl saying good night to me here. Baby. Night. I don't know if the phone's picking her up.
Yeah.
Night.
Look at Noel with his adult responsibility.
I know, yeah. Look at this.
Sorry. Bye. Yeah, Roosevelt's class. Another call out for me would be a man Spike Carlisle.
Spike.
I absolutely love a ginger fighter. And I always said if I was a fighter,
that's the weirdest fetish I've ever heard.
No, the reason being is if I was ever matched against a ginger, I'd be like, I'm not taking that fucking fight, because the more you hit a ginger, the more pissed off he gets, because he can see the marking of your shots on his skin. But he's wild. He throws really unorthodox combinations. He almost looks like a Muay Thai style fighter when you see him. He always tends to wear the anklets and stuff. But he's got a super single leg takedown and high crotch takedown, and he's nasty ground and pound. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. But again, it's a tough fight against Billy Quarantino, I'm going to call him. But it's a good fight. I think that's actually a cracking fight. So my one fight of the night for me is look out for Spike. I just like his style of fighting, and the gingerness. He had ginger dreads the last time.
Yeah, that's a great matchup as well. Quarantino, as you like to call him, he's a very good fighter too. Came off the Contender Series, looked very very good there. So that's a really good matchup. Mackenzie Dern is back. She recently had a kid, didn't she? I think she did. Yeah, so she's back against Hannah Cyphers. I think if Dern's grappling is on point, she wins that fight handily enough. But
huge favourite.
Oh, is she? Yeah, fair enough. Tim Elliott as well is on the card. I always like Tim Elliott, Fungi, and Lewis Smoker as well on the card against Casey Kenny. So yeah,
Lewis Smoker, man, that was mad. There was a lot of smoke behind Lewis Smoker for a long time. Then he got cut, didn't he? And he went away and came back.
I think he had some alcohol related problems.
You went
like a pint.
You went away from the co-main, Ivanov, and I think that's a good fight too. But yeah, as I used to say, Rob, they may not all be household names.
Yeah. One last thing on it, and then we'll leave. So make sure you do like the video, because it always helps. But yeah, did you just notice that it's gonna be a 20-foot cage, not the 30 one? Yeah. So I know a lot of people like that. I think it's a lot better sometimes, especially for certain types of fighters, especially for the smaller fighters. But there was a question there by John C about how that would affect Woodley's style, the way he likes to back up to the cage and stuff. Do you think that would favour him?
For that?
I guess it's just maybe the space in the Apex. They generally have that size cage, but like the UFC do use that cage on and off. It's not always. I think most pay-per-views have the bigger cage.
It's not normally fight nights they reserve it for, or it's in that little dingy casino.
I like it
in Vegas, but like it does change the fact that a fight that comes out for me off the top of my head is Terry Brazier when he fought Reese McKee.
Good point.
In London, they were a little tiny cage, and that cage just did not suit Reese's fighting style to fight someone like Terry Brazier. So it certainly changes. It's always weird when it's the heavyweights in it as well. There's no heavyweights on this card though, is there? Co-main heavy, So always interesting when the big boys are in the smaller cage. Sometimes it can lead. Like I remember the first Cage Kings here in Dublin was in quite a small cage,
Yeah.
and it led to there's nowhere to hide. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
What did they call it? A dog box, wasn't it? They call it
a dog kennel, yeah.
dog kennel.
Literally sticking them in the dog kennel and letting the two dogs bark. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think you as the viewer, you don't notice it unless you sort of go, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But for the fighters, it tends to lead to a lot of action. I think John McCarthy was quoted as saying on their podcast that the UFC like that because it ups the action in the cage.
Yeah, I like it too. It definitely ups it. WEC used to use it for the smaller guys. It was great. But that's it. We'll leave it there. Noel, thanks for buzzing on. Always fun. And Sean.
Pleasure. Namaste and all that.
Namaste. And you can check Noel out when you're doing some yoga. You can check Noel out when Brave returns at some point, because I'm sure they will return. Hopefully not too far away.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there is talk of a return. I can't really say too much now because there's nothing done, but there's plenty of work going on by the great people at Brave Combat Federation and KHK Sports. So hopefully we will be back on your screens. Keep your eye on all Brave Combat Federation social media to pick up, because they'll probably release the news before I have it too. But yeah, it's a weird time. But
such a pro.
Yeah,
the way you done that. Such a pro. Cheers, Sean. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brave.
Go on. Brave. See yous.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, lads. Thanks a million.